From the East and the West, you've heard others, but now you've tuned into the best. This is a Prime Wave Media production.
What's up, world? It's the one and only Pop DBICD Primetime Capper, and it is time for the premier sports betting show. And boy, oh boy, what do we have? We have ourselves the NBA draft coming up tomorrow. So, there's a lot of hype going around that bad boy and everything. Mr. Wemby made his way to New York City yesterday, took in a Yankee game as well, too. Pretty much was a sight for sore eyes. He even wore number 5, the retired Joe DiMaggio number. So that wasn't like a specific number they handed to him or anything like that, because numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 are all retired by the Yankees, which is incredible. So you guys will probably never see another Yankee again wear those numbers at all. So pretty much Wembymania has begun. Will he deliver early, or will he be another international oversell? I say another international oversell because I'm thinking about guys like Andre Bargnani. I'm thinking about Kristaps Porzingis. I'm thinking about George Mirasan. I'm thinking about a lot of these guys that they felt were going to be these elite NBA players that wound up just being pretty decent at being an NBA player and not being the big expectations that they want them to be. Now, Wemby is a guy that is a rare case. This is something that only comes around once in a lifetime, or this could be the norm of what's going to happen moving forward. It seems like he's a bigger version of Giannis from what they're playing up about him. And then at the downside of it, then you start seeing that he could be a bigger version of Michael Olakandi. You know what I mean? Because he's a guy that still is learning the game of basketball, regardless of how the skeptics and the scouts and all the talking heads feel. The guy has not played basketball, but probably a good 6-7 years on a serious note. And that's because he caught a height advantage over a lot of people. You have to understand that France it's not the first thing that they're putting in your face is a basketball. It's usually a soccer ball or a tennis ball or something of that nature, those type of sports. So Wemby is a player that you can't put so much pressure on him because he's already kind of a project piece in a sense, because if everything's successful, he probably will wind up being one of the greatest players to ever play in the NBA. If it doesn't work out, then he'll be a guy that will be seen as somebody that as a cautionary tale, and that you can't jump on these guys who are 7'5" and 7'4" and don't have, more muscle to them and things of that nature. This guy is going to have to build some weight up and everything like that. But you look at him, he has a slender frame. So it's going to be really hard for him to still be a very good player as a, player who has big muscles and things like that. Because what happens is that, pretty much it takes away from the length that he has. It's not going to take that much away from his length, but he has a flexibility to him that's very helpful because he's skinny and long. You know what I mean? And, you can't do what you did with LeBron James where you add on 30 pounds of muscle, before he steps court in his first official NBA game. So this guy is going to have to really be taken a little bit more cautiously. You can't rush too many things. I know that they're not going to be playing him much in Summer League. I think they're going to give you a good sample size of maybe 3 or 4 games for him. And then after that, they'll go ahead and say, you know what, we'll pack him up for the rest of the summer. They'll come up with some type of little tweak or injury or something of that nature that will have him out. Or they'll just say, you know what, we're only playing him so many games and that's it. But I truly do think that they got to stop babysitting these guys so much and give the fans exactly what they want and let these guys play and let them play. You know what I mean? Because I think that, that's the best thing for you to get the exposure that you need to get the excitement. I felt like the Lakers were able to create a lot of excitement about their young roster because they let those guys play in that summer league. Like, they let them play. Even when Zoe had a injury that really he should have sat out with, they let him play until the championship game. So pretty much you have this you have this pretty much in your rear view right now, that this is going to be a summer league that's going to be very, very watched by a lot of the NBA talking heads and a lot of the NBA experts and everything like that, because they have such a significant player there this year as well too. And you got to remember, you have another guy here as well too, who's going to be the second pick in the draft from more and more that I'm hearing about it. And I had already given you guys the actual just that he was going to Charlotte pretty much and they pretty much had their minds made up a few weeks back. I know a lot of people felt like he had a second tryout and it happened like 3 days ago, but they've been very keen on Brandon Miller, and Brandon Miller is the guy that they did circle to be their guy, because what's the point of having Scoot if pretty much they already have a LaMelo Ball? Like, there's no point of getting Scoot. So pretty much you got Brandon Miller to the Hornets. It's becoming more solid by the day. How can he improve this team day one? Well, the thing is, you bring in Brandon Miller, and Brandon Miller is a very versatile forward. He's a guy that can also play the guard position for you, meaning that he can bring up the ball for you on certain occasions and keep things a little bit more diverse with him and LaMelo. LaMelo is a great playmaker, and he's a guy that's going to be able to really get better because he's going to have a scorer in Brandon Miller. Brandon Miller is going to be a guy who's going to be asked to do pretty much everything but be that long, silky, smooth forward, and possibly be a guy that can average 25 points per game. I know that you can't expect that in his rookie year and things of that nature, but I know that he plays the game with a lot of with a very strong IQ. And LaMelo plays a game with a very strong IQ as well too. This is exactly what the doctor ordered, and it gives Charlotte a little bit of wiggle room to start alleviating some of that big cap that they have as well too, with the players that are not performing to those contracts. Like, I know that now they can move on from Gordon Hayward. For sure. There's like no doubt about it that, there's a way that you can get out of the Gordon Hayward business at this point. And I would say that somebody like the Lakers or the Clippers could possibly go ahead and try to pick him up. But I truly do think that LaMelo and Brandon Miller can become one of the best duos in the NBA if everything works out right. And they're in a division that's very winnable as well, too, being the Southeast. As you guys can see, you had Miami win the division, but wind up still being the 8th seed last year. So this will be something that's going to be very good for Charlotte moving forward. You have the pressure of Michael Jordan no longer being the owner. So you have that out the way as well too. So there's a lot of things that are working out in the favor of the Charlotte Hornets moving forward as a franchise that's looking to actually be a winning franchise over the next decade or so. They got a pretty good coach in place as well, and they have a lot of things that will tell to you that, okay, if they can get LaMelo to be healthy for 80 to 90% of the season, if you can get Brandon Miller to play to the big potential that has been bestowed upon him, then you have yourself a very great situation here in Charlotte moving forward. But in Charlotte, patience is always wearing thin, and you always know that they're always pinching the pennies as well too, because it really doesn't. They have to be really good to have the city behind them. If they're not really good, you'll have some support, but you will not have the big support that you need, where guys are buying merchandise and people are fanatics of the team and paying for all the fan friendly days and things of that nature. You after a while, you're just trying to turn a profit. And I think that if you can get this team to be really good, they'll be one of the top sellers in the NBA jersey, merchandise, ticket-wise. And I think that they've been waiting to become that franchise again. I'm just saying this because I saw Charlotte when they first came around in the NBA in the late 80s, 90s, and they had Lonzo Mourning, Larry Johnson. They were one of the premier teams in the NBA. Even though they didn't go play in the finals or play in the conference finals or anything like that, they had the players to sell a great product. And that's the whole thing. And that's exactly what Charlotte's trying to get themselves back to. Will this be the reemergence of a possible great duo like Zoe and Larry Johnson, or will this be another flop in the Hornets Bobcats tenure? We'll see. So let's go ahead and jump into some college football. And college football, we are talking UCLA football, ready to take it to the next level. Can they win the Pac-12 and be a playoff team this year? I think that being a playoff team this year is very possible for UCLA. UCLA has a lot of really good players that are ready to make themselves more known across the nation. And I think UCLA is very close to having that big we are UCLA moment, because we know that they're going to be a great basketball force in the Big Ten. But also, you can go ahead and get them prepared to be a great force in football in the Big Ten as well, too. They already have the West Coast advantage, and they already have guys in there that had the speed that a lot of Big Ten teams can't keep up with. But the biggest problem with UCLA, and it stays being the biggest problem every year with UCLA, even though they have some standouts on that side of the ball, it's the defense. The defense as a whole really figures out ways to blow games. And they're not a defense that you can go to and be like, man, they're so disciplined, they're so good, they'll give up only 10 points today. They're not like Northwestern, or Army or those teams that literally live to play defense. They're not in that category. They're a team that really goes ahead and they really are trying to outscore you all the time. And I only bring up the defenses because they blew a bowl game that they should have won. And it was because the defense was so lackadaisical there in the final seconds of that game. They wound up giving up, I think, 2 or 3 plays that resulted in 60 yards and a game-winning field goal. UCLA just really blew a game that they had such a great effort in almost winning. They had to come back themselves there late in the end, but they had started off with a good lead. And then the defense got a little bit too comfortable, and they wound up losing a game that they should have never lost. I do not care what anybody says. UCLA shouldn't have lost that game at all. And they were going against a team that was pretty good, but they should have beat them. You know what I mean? And they had everything working in their favor throughout the game. I think now UCLA does understand that we have to make this defense one of the better defenses in the nation. USC can do all the bragging that they want to as well too, but they don't have a great defense either. And that's going to have to be their calling card this year if they even are thinking about possibly being in a national championship. Same thing goes for UCLA. And I feel like UCLA and USC are really on the same level as we speak. But the one thing that they do have the advantage over UCLA is in the quarterback situation. But UCLA has three guys in place right now that could be big-time players this year. The kid from Inglewood, I would love to see him be the starting quarterback this year, but most likely he'll have to wait a year because they do have a guy there that played plenty of football while, DTR was the quarterback, because, DTR had a lot of injuries. DTR would sit out a play or two or sit out a quarter. You know what I mean? So they have a guy that has a lot of experience, but I feel like Justin Martin can be a guy that's going to be the next great quarterback at UCLA. He was a great quarterback at Inglewood High School. So I think that possibly the way that the game is going, that should be your guy. And I know that Chip Kelly, the way that he's thinking is he's thinking about Dennis Dixon in a sense when it comes to Justin Martin. And I think that that's going to be a very key decision for Kelly this year on who he wants the starting quarterback to be. And he knows it seems to be a mobile quarterback that can move around that pocket and find open receivers down the field broken coverages. It seems like that's been a very good balance for UCLA the past few years. But the running game is going to be the difference. And the offensive line of UCLA is superior this season. And they also have 3 or 4 really good running backs there as well, too. And, they had some really good running backs over this whole tenure with Chip Kelly as well. So there's going to be a lot of things that get you a little excited about UCLA moving forward. But can UCLA run the table this year? Of course they can. They have a schedule that does call for them to go ahead and do that. But we know how tough the Pac-12 is going to be, especially road games and especially games that are against the inferior teams when they come to your house. Because it seems like every inferior team comes into somebody's house and really makes them work for victories. UCLA, great example, the Arizona game. So, there's just a lot of things that you get excited about with UCLA, but then there's the things that you say to yourself, this can be the same old Bruins that they are every season. So there's just a lot of things that I think that will need to be adjusted upon this year, but I feel that they have a very strong chance of being a team that's going to be right there in the mix and be in the top 8 to where they can go ahead and try to get themselves to probably the semifinals. They aren't a national championship team this year, but they are a team that can make some noise and probably go out a big winner as they exit the Pac-12. All right, so let's go ahead and get to our final subject here, and that's going to be this right here. It's going to be the Reds have won 10 games in a row. Are they legit contenders to win the NL Central? Now, this guy right here, Mr. Delhi, he has been pretty much the hottest thing smoking in the MLB. He's probably the best impact player that you could have on a team in some time. He did exactly what guys do when you're helping a team transition from being a basement dweller to a team that becomes the landlord of the division. But I will say this. I've told you guys this since 30 teams in 30 days. The NL Central is going to be the toughest division for anybody to win this year because it's so bad at the end of the day. These are probably the 5 worst teams in the National League when we really go ahead and put them in the categories with everybody. When you look at roster, everything like that. Yeah, you got teams with winning records, things like that. But as I said before, the only team that stood out to me all year were the Brewers. And I know that Mike gives me a lot of backlash about the Brewers. He's been giving me backlash about the Brewers all season. But that's why I picked them at plus 140 because they were going to be the only consistent team that was going to be hovering around first place all season. Now, the Reds are only a half a game up over the Brewers. They have a 10-game winning streak in place. This is very similar to what the Pirates did on 20 out of 7. Right now, when you look at it, you have a team that's only lost, 6 games this month, and they've won 13. Okay, so they've done a great job. You know what I mean? You're not going to take that away from the Reds right now. You know what I mean? They're playing great baseball. Right now it's 3-3 as well, too, against Colorado. But this team is playing great baseball. Okay, there's no denying that. All right, they've won 10 games in a row. But at one point this month, they had lost 6 out of 9. Okay, and that was pretty much when their streak started. Now they still have lost 6 games this month. They've wound up winning 13 games this month. So they're having an awesome month. It's that simple. Why the Milwaukee Brewers, a team that swept them, out of their 6 losses, 3 of those losses came to the Milwaukee Brewers. So, you got to factor that in, that the Brewers still have their number. That's the whole thing. And they have, and they got probably my favorite pitcher in the MLB right now, Hunter Green. But they lost Ashcroft for some time. They lost, I'm trying to think about what other pitchers they've lost, but they lost a few pitchers here in the long run of things as well, too. So they can't. So how long will it last? You got Joey Votto back. That's great. You got Delhi here, who's just been such a marquee impact on this team. But then at the end of the day, you have a team that's still learning how to win. You know what I mean? They're just having a really good time. And the Brewers, I'll just keep it real. The Brewers had a pretty rough go of it last week. The Brewers wound up losing 6 games in a row and also got swept by Oakland. So that's something that they were not fathoming, and they've won their last 4 out of 5. So, when you look at it, that the Brewers are going to they're a team that can consistently get 5 to 6 wins in a row, even though they can lose 4 in a row. But they are a team that's going to hover around first place all season and probably are going to be the NL Central champions when it's all said and done. But you're going to have to deal with the Reds having a hot run and finding themselves in first place. Then you're going to have to deal with the Cubs, who are starting to heat up right now as they make a big run towards trying to be in first place for a day or two. So, it's gonna be like that. And I'm gonna keep it real with you guys. The Cardinals are not out of this thing yet. Once we get to the second half of the season, they'll start playing way better baseball. So the Reds winning 10 games in a row is absolutely remarkable. Now, if they win today, that'd be 11 in a row. That'd be the first time since 1940 they've won 11 games in a row. That's absolutely tremendous. That means that in 83 years, they haven't won 11 in a row. And this team has won a few World Series in that time span as well. So this is a pretty good measurement on what this Reds team can be once they get the perfect lineup and once they get the rotation to back that lineup up. It's nothing but a bright future ahead for the old Big Red Machine. All right, so with that, we're going to go ahead and take our first commercial break, and when we get back, we're going to jump into some more baseball. We're going to talk Blue Crew Daily, and we're also going to talk about the MLB Wednesday Night. So you guys stay tuned, and this is the premier sports betting show, the Primetime Angles, with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the Primetime Capper.
Good News Only Racing Club, led by the legendary Doug O'Neill, the trainer of 2 Kentucky Derby winners, and I'll have another in Nyquist. Also trained 2-time Breeders' Cup champ Golden Sense, who are just a part of a long list of thoroughbred champions trained by Doug O'Neill. The Good News Only Racing Club has a young core of horses to look out for in Dennis's Celery, Irish Heatwave, and Notre Dame, just to name a few. Win the day every day with the Good News Only Racing Club, a proud sponsor of the NFL Bet Exchange.
From the East and the West, you've heard others, but now you've tuned into the best. This is a Prime Wave Media production.
Tune into Big Wave Boxing every week with a brand new guest with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the Primetime Capper, getting the best boxing stories, best boxing angles, and the truth when it all comes down to the sweet science. Tune in to Big Wave Boxing on the Prime Wave Media channel on YouTube.
All right, we're back with the premier sports betting show, the Primetime Angles, with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the Primetime Kappa. So we have ourselves the Blue Crew Daily. Kershaw pitched superb in a 2-0 win at Angels. Can they sweep the series tonight, and do they need to? That's the biggest question that I have. Also, real quick breaking news. I was talking to NBA draft and everything like that. Looks like the Pacers and the Nuggets have themselves a trade in place. That has nothing to do with the Nuggets 7 pick in the draft, but they are trading into the first round. That's the whole thing. So that's what they're doing, is trading into the first round, and they're trying to take the 29 and 32. It's little stuff, so we'll see how it goes. But they do have a trade in place, and you can see more about it on the Twitter from Woj and crew. But let me go ahead and get into this Dodgers report. And the Dodgers last night, they did win 2-0. Like I said, they needed that. They just got swept by their arch rival, the Giants. And they needed that because the Dodgers find themselves in third place. They find themselves in the third wild card spot. They find themselves now having to really fight It's no more Dodgers having their insurance of being the first place team and having a 5-game lead and all that great stuff that the Dodgers have been able to have over the last few years, going back and forth with the Giants or something like that, and they're 30 games ahead of everybody else. No, the Dodgers are in a tough National League race right now. As I keep saying to you guys, the Dodgers are a part of a group of 5 teams that have 40 wins or better. But then you have a group of, say, you have a group of 6 teams that have 34 wins or better. You have Milwaukee and Philadelphia, both 38 and 35. You have San Diego and Chicago, both 35 and 38. Then you have the Pirates and the Mets, who are 34, 38, and 34 and 39, respectively. So you have a very tough division. You have a very tough league in general because you already have 6 teams in place for the playoffs. But then you have 6 more in place for who are outside of the playoffs. So you have 12 teams that are in the running, and then you still have to add in St. Louis, who's not that far behind. They're 3.5 games back. The 2 teams that you do say, okay, they're out of this thing, are Colorado and Washington. But you have pretty much right now, you have 13 teams in play for any spot in the National League right now. When you look at the way that the schedule is setting up, you have a Milwaukee team that's only 2 games behind the leaders. You have Philadelphia's 2 games behind the leaders. And then you have Chicago and San Diego. They're 5 games behind the leaders. So, it's tough. You know what I mean? And it's a tough league this year compared to what's going on in the American League, in my opinion. You know what I mean? The American League is a little bit more right there in your face, except for the Central, where you have a lot of teams that are chasing. But it's crazy because 3 out of the 4, all the teams from the Central are 8 through 11. So that's pretty bad as well, too. You know what I mean? So pretty much you have a very, very close race, and the Dodgers got to get this thing together. Tonight is a tougher game because they have themselves a pitcher on the mound that's been struggling a little bit lately, and that's going to be Michael Grove. Michael Grove has an 8.10 ERA. He's given up 12 runs in the last 3 games he's been in. But good part about this is he struck out 16 in the process as well, too. And he's went 14 innings, but he's given up 15 hits. So he's going to have to figure out some control, you know what I mean? Because he's had some really rough outings, and it's really rough. And it's probably his best games came against the Chicago Cubs. Other than that, he hasn't been that good. Okay. So pretty much tonight, he's going to have to step it up, but he's going to need run support as well here too. And the Dodgers are going against Shohei Ohtani. Shohei right now is 6-2, 3.29 ERA, and he pitched the absolute gem in his last game. He didn't strike out much, and he gave up 6 hits, but he went 6 innings, and they were 6 strong innings. He only gave up 2 runs, and they wound up winning the game. So there's a lot of things that factor in tonight, but you know that the Angels are going to be a monster favorite because they have Shohei on the mound, and the Dodgers are dealing with one of their weaker pitchers right now. So it's going to be a game that they feel like the Angels are going to win, but the Dodgers need this one badly. But the Angels are in the same position. They need this one just as bad too, because when you look at everything at the end of the day, you got the Angels who are playing in a position that they haven't played in years, and that's playing they're in the playoffs, and they're the second place team in their division over Houston at this point in the season. So that's pretty good as well too. And they just beat the Rangers 3 out of 4. So this team is playing with a lot of confidence. So this is a great game tonight between the Angels and the Dodgers. I look forward to it. I think that this game does wind up actually going over tonight. I think that both teams are going to actually absolutely cream the ball left and right. So we'll see how it goes. We know Shohei is a great pitcher and everything like that, but he wasn't as good as he was last year or the year before. You know what I mean? So I think that this possibly can be a good old firefight between the freeway rivals, the Dodgers, the Chavez Ravine, and the Angels of the Big A. So with that, let's go ahead and get into MLB Wednesday Night. MLB Wednesday Night presents. We already have some games going as is. Because we got early starts. It's a travel day today. So tomorrow will probably bring us not as many games as today. We'll have a lot of early games tomorrow as well too, and a lot of games. And we only are going to get tomorrow 9 games from what I can see here, or 8 games from what I can see here. Yeah, we're going to get 8 games tomorrow, and half of them and 5 of them start before 1 o'clock Pacific time. So you have that in your crawl. So pretty much right now, checking the scores, you have the Rays up 7-2 over the Orioles. You have a 3-3 tie going on with the Rockies and the Reds. Bottom of the 8th, though, with a man on second, 1 out. Okay, in that situation, you got the Cubbies up 6-3. Cubbies actually had shut out the Pirates the first 2 games. 8-0 first game, 4-0 the next game, 4-0 the first game, 8-0 the next game. So they've literally went ahead and pretty much one-sided a Pirates team that was seen as one of the surprise teams, but they are really coming back down to earth now. And then you got the Tigers and the Royals. I'm kind of not happy about this one because I needed the Royals to win this game. They're losing this one 5-2. I'm trying to get the Royals home in that series, and the Diamondbacks and Brewers are scoreless right now, bottom of the second. And then you have the Mets and the Astros in the top of the second, and the Astros are up 2-0. So let's go ahead and jump into the game that's actually going to go down in the next hour and 15 minutes, and that's going to be the Cards and the Nats. This game is going to be a early afternoon game over in early afternoon for me, late afternoon for the DC area. But you have on the mound tonight, you have Malakis on the mound for the Cardinals tonight, and then you also have Trevor Williams on the mound for the Nats. So you have 2 teams that are going in that are trying to get out in this bottom tier of the MLB. You know what I mean? They're right behind each other, to be exact. And there's just a lot of things that have a lot of really fun elements to it in this game today. You got 2 guys that really know how to pitch, and they've been pitching pretty well lately. Even though Williams did get a little banged up against Miami last weekend, but before that, he had pitched a pretty good game against Atlanta. Now you have Malakis, who's probably the best pitcher on St. Louis this year, not named Jordan Montgomery. He struggled a little bit. He struggled in his last game as well, too. He's actually given up 13 runs over his last 3 games, and he gave up 6 in the last one, 5 in the one prior to that, and he's only struck out 3. So, he's struggling just a little bit. And, before that, against KC, he actually pitched somewhat of a shutout and struck out 10. And he had the same deal against Cincinnati. So today, he's going to try to get back to the groove. But I think that Trevor Williams is going to be pretty good today because it seems like he stepped it up against teams like St. Louis all season long. And he wants to get back that bad game that he had against Miami last week. So I truly do think that this will wind up being my dog of the day. We actually hit both dogs yesterday as well, too. White Sox got home for us at plus 125. Royals got home for us at plus 120. But the Royals were the MLB dog of the day yesterday, and they got home for us, and they only needed 1 run. So that works out all the time for me. So pretty much when I look at this one right here, we have ourselves the dog of the day plus 140 on the Nats at home. So let's see how it goes. Let's see how it shakes out. We move forward from there. All right, so we have ourselves the Mariners and the Yankees today. The Mariners are coming in here as the favorite today. The Yankees have Johnny Brito on the mound as well. Johnny Brito has been a little shaky this year, but you know what? The Yankees are starting to form together and make things happen a little bit better. I think that he's going to be very confident today. He hasn't pitched since the 20th of May. So that should be pretty good because he's had a month off and he needed a month off. He needed to go ahead and get his mental together and everything like that. So you got a pitcher who's pretty fresh going today. Now, Luis Castillo, he's been getting worked. He's been getting used a lot. So he's pitching like every 4 to 5 days and everything like that, and 4 to 5, 6 days or so. And pretty much he had some pretty good outings in his outings that pretty much were every other game. He struck out 10 against Pittsburgh. He struck out 6 against Texas, then struck out 10 against the Angels, then did 6 again. So that pretty much means that he has sat up in here and actually struck out 32 guys in the last 3 games. So when you look at the numbers of that, and when you look at the numbers of that situation, that's a pretty damn good number in the last 4 games. You know what I mean? That means he's damn near averaging 7 strikeouts per game. And Luis Castillo should be on the money today, but I think that this is going to be a severe over bet. So that's why I'm going to go ahead and take the Yankees with the +1.5 to keep the game close. Now, they may not win the game, but they're going to keep the game close, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Because you do have Castillo, who is getting worked a little bit, and the Mariners are one of the worst hitting teams in baseball. You know what I mean? So he's probably not going to get the run support that he definitely needs to actually win this game. All right, so we move forward. Let's go ahead and jump into my next, and this is going to be the Red Sox and the Twins. We got 39-35 to the Red Sox. The Twins are 36-38. And tonight's game, I just really feel like this one is all about the pitching. You know, it comes down to how the pitching is going to work. Sonny Gray is on the mound tonight, 4-1. He's been electric this year, but he did have he's been not shaky, but he's been giving up a good fair share of hits. He's given up 18 hits over his last 3 games. Also, he's only struck out 10 over his last 3 as well, too. But he's only given up 6 runs. So that means that, you know, he's giving up hits. He's not striking out much, but he's not giving up a lot of runs either. Sonny Gray's just a professional pitcher. And that's something that's very good for this Minnesota team moving forward. Now, Garrett Whitlock, on the other hand, he's been a little back and forth, but he's been better since he came back up. You know what I mean? Because he struggled when the season first started in April. But when he came back up in June, it's been a different story since then. And his last 2 outings were superb. 13 strikeouts. He only allowed 4 runs, and he only allowed 13 hits. And he did this in 13 1/3 innings. So I think that he is on to something. He's won 2 in a row as well, too. So that's something that will have you very confident in the Red Sox today. So I truly do feel like that this is going to be a pitcher's duel in place. So I'm going to go ahead and take the under 8 in this spot. And that's going to be our plays for this afternoon, since we got so many games that started early today. So pretty much with that, you guys stay tuned. When I get back, we will be talking tickets. So this is the premier sports betting show, the Primetime Angles, with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the Primetime Capper.
Now you and your friends can compete in the sport of kings and win big with Stable Duel. Get the app, pick your horses, and get in on the thrill of horse racing with daily games competing against other players. Bring home the glory and the cash, and move up the annual leaderboard while you leave your competition in the dust. Get in the game with Stable Duel. Play, race, win.
Good News Only Racing Club, led by the legendary Doug O'Neill, the trainer of 2 Kentucky Derby winners, and I'll have another in Nyquist. Also trained 2-time Breeders' Cup champ Golden Sense, who are just a part of a long list of thoroughbred champions trained by Doug O'Neill. The Good News Only Racing Club has a young core of horses to look out for in Dennis's Celery, Irish Heatwave, and Notre Dame, just to name a few. Win the day every day with the Good News Only Racing Club, a proud sponsor of the NFL Bet Exchange.
All right, we're back with the premier sports betting show, the Primetime Angles, with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the Primetime Capper. So let's go ahead and jump into Talking Tickets. Talking Tickets, we have ourselves some pretty good bets today. And up first, we have the PrimeTime PK4, which is 15-1. The Nats are plus 140. That's going to be our dog of the day today. Then we also have the Yankees plus 1.5, minus 115 on that bet. And then we have the under 8 with the Red Sox and the Twins today. And then we also have the over 8.5 with the Dodgers and the Angels. This is going to be a 15-1 ticket. Let's see how it goes. Let's see how it shakes out. All right, so since we don't have a lot of MLB games, I can't split the card up and have a pick 6 and a pick 4 and all that good stuff. We already put out a matinee 5 earlier, so that probably isn't going to hit either. But you know what? We do have some pretty good winners on there as well, too. So if you single those, this should be some good money for you. But let's go ahead and check out our props for tonight. And these are going to be our props bets. I got 2.5 on the Phillies plus 220 tonight. So I need the Phillies to beat the Braves by 3 runs or better. I think that we have a great chance of doing that. We also have the Guardians over 5.5 runs plus 220. That should be good for us tonight as well, too, because it's the A's that are in town. Even though they got one of their better pitchers on the mound, it's still the A's. And the Guardians know that they need to pounce because the Twins are starting to struggle and struggle mightily. Then we have the Red Sox under 3 runs tonight, plus 145. I already have that game going under 8. So this kind of just suits the game for me. Let's see how it goes. Let's see how it checks out. I'm not saying that the Red Sox lose the game. I'm just saying that they don't score more than 3 runs. And hopefully they just keep it at 2. And then we have the no score first inning with the Rangers and the White Sox at minus 135. We'll see how that one goes. We'll see how it shakes out. And then we have a bonus situation. We're going to add on an extra run and hope for the Dodgers and the Angels to hit the double-digit threshold. So then we can go ahead and cash out this ticket for plus 150. So there it is, and there it is. All right. So once again, thank you guys very much for tuning in today. You guys are the absolute best. And I'll be back tomorrow. I'm going to check with them in a moment, but I should be on Jeff's show tomorrow. And then I'll also be doing Mike Abadir's show as well, too, tomorrow afternoon. And we'll be having another episode of Primetime Angles because it's draft day. And we got to talk about the draft some more. All right. So with that, I want to thank you guys once again for tuning in. As I always like to say, there is no me without you. And damn it. You say it every single day. All right. Bet with your head, not with your heart. The movement is moving. And this is the premier sports betting show, the Primetime Angles, with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the Primetime Capper, and I am gone.
From the East and the West, you've heard others, but now you've tuned into the best. This is a Prime Wave Media production.